and welcome to a new round of the Aloha 26 challenge. I think we have a few new faces here today, so let me just do a really quick introduction. Hi, my name is Keiko. I'm the host of this art challenge. I am also a watercolor paint maker and artist. I have hosted art challenges on a monthly basis since I believe 2018. And in the beginning, there were calligraphy and lettering challenges because that's what I focused on back then. And since 2021, I've been hosting art watercolor painting challenges. This year, we're gonna have a different theme every month. Last month, we had ocean animals in Hawaii, and this month, we're focusing on Native Hawaiian birds. For the whole year, we're going to have themes that are connected to Hawaii, and I want us to explore different techniques and also get to know different aspects of Hawaii a little better. Okay, so every month we have a theme, and then every week we have one prompt. Some months have 5 weeks, of course, but I decided to only do 4 prompts every month. I want this challenge to be more of a creative hangout, so low pressure, just 4 prompts per month. Let me say, last year we had the special thing going on where we focused on one color per month. This year it's a bit different. You can use whatever color and medium you want. How should I put it? The interesting thing about this challenge this year is that you have optional side quests. So apart from the prompt, for example, this week we're gonna paint a Hawaiian iiwi bird. Hold on, this one here. So this month we have side quests that are really optional, but I encourage you to try at least one of them out for one of the prompts. So for example, work with silhouettes, add a Native Hawaiian plant to your bird, work with a timer, that could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you choose, or work with mixed media. So not just watercolor, but throw all of these media on the paper. The side quests, as I said, they are totally optional. You can try all of them. You can combine different ones for one prompt. It's totally up to you. And every month we'll have new prompts and new side quests. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera around and let's talk about the supplies and how we're going to draw this bird today. Okay, let's go. So you can already see my desk. I prepped a few things, and while I was prepping, I realized how many bird things I have on my desk constantly. Stickers, mugs, palettes, my water cups have birds, Hawaiian birds on them. I also have a really beautiful handmade mug from Tracy, but I couldn't find it. So this morning I was running around trying to get everything in place, so I didn't really spend too much time retrieving that mug, but I will find it later. Oh yeah, I made this thing. I don't even know what this is supposed to be. It was kind of like my first try at pottery, a pinch pot, and then painted this little amakihi in it. But yeah, what do you do with this? Just put sauce or use it as a really fancy big brush holder? Okay, so I have put a link for this PDF both in the chat and also down below in the description box. Also down below in the description box are today's supplies. So everything that I mentioned today is also already down in the description box so that you can relax and don't have to scramble around to listen to what I'm saying about the supplies. Let me just get sorted out here and let me look at the chat real quick. Hello everyone. Hello Mama Taki. Hi Sylvie. Hi Tracy. Yeah, the bird nerds. Hi Lisa from New Jersey. In the deep, deep winter. Okay, Sylvie said the stream is lagging and stopped, and then it works again. Okay. I hope video's okay now and audio too. Hi Castine. Hi Carrie. And then in the beginning, someone said, my husband and I saw this gorgeous bird while hiking up on Haleakala. Haleakala is a volcano over on Maui. Those brilliant red feathers gave it away. Is this Hawaii's version of a hummingbird? Yeah, we don't have hummingbirds here in Hawaii, do we? That would be fun, imagine. The iiwi bird can't, to my knowledge, I don't know, can they stand in the air and fly backwards and all these things? I don't believe though, so. However, they do love to drink nectar from, especially from this plant, the ohia lehua, but also mamane and other native Hawaiian plants. And they have this beak, of course, that's curved so they can get into all these different interesting plants. So I guess in a way, minus the flying part, but the nectar loving part, I guess that would make it a bit similar to a hummingbird, I suppose. Okay, hi Pam. Okay, so today I won't be using my sketchbook that I used here. This is just the painting I did for today so that I know exactly how, which steps to take. This is my Strathmore 500 that I am designating for this year's challenge. So this was last month. It's cotton paper, it's rather thin, however, it holds up really well, I have to say, especially for this reef. I threw a lot of water and paint on here for the background, but it's especially good for smaller illustrations like this one and a bit more detailed illustrations. The paper is quite smooth. Today I will be using a different paper though. This is my Canson Watercolor XL. It's 140 pounds, 300 GSM. Does not contain any cotton at all, but it's one of my go-tos papers and sketchbooks. It's also very inexpensive. And see, I did the same prompts in this one. And I'm gonna use the back side of one of these papers today, and I'm going to put them side by side so that you do see the reference at all times. I think it makes it easier to keep up. I also printed out my reference photo, and if you have received my newsletter, the reference photo should be in there as well. This is a public domain photo published by the DLNR Hawaii, and let me put that, I'm going to put this to the side over here. As for paints, I will be using my own handmade Aloha watercolors. I have yellow, red, green, and black. These colors are all from my bird set, the Mele Manu set. And this one here is called Palila. It's a Zircon yellow. Again, I have all the paints down in the description. You do not need to have these colors or these particular colors or pigments. Just use whatever you have at hand. Yellow, red. This is actually called the iiwi, like the bird we're painting today. And it's a Mayan red, like the Mayans that made their own pigments and paints. This one's called Sanctuary. It's a mix of an earth green and cobalt green. And my personal favorite in the bird set is Alala, which is the name of the Hawaiian crow. And it's a mix of magnetite, other black pigments, and purple pigments, and blue also, ultramarine blue. So it's a very interesting separating, granulating paint. I have a ceramic palette with another bird that I made a while ago. You can see here a swatch of the Alala color and see how it's black and purple and separating. I use a ceramic palette just to be able to see the colors better and also the consistency of the color, how much water, how much pigment. I'm going to use two brushes today. I have a small round brush, size 2 by the Pigeon letters. And then this one on top here is my Alohawatercolors Travel brush, round, size 8. It depends what size of paper you use today. So accordingly, you need to choose the size of your brushes. If you're working in a very small format, you know, you might want to size down with your brushes. I have a kneadable eraser by Faber Castell. This is super convenient to erase your pencil marks. You can just roll over the paper. I'll demonstrate later on. I have 2 cups of water. One is to rinse my brush the first time, and then I'll pick up clean water from the second container. And then over here I have my colored pencils. So these are water soluble colored pencils, which means you can reactivate them with water. And it also means they are very soft and they won't harm the paper even when the paper is still wet. Again, I have all the names of the colors and brands down in the description box, but basically we have yellow, red, dark green, and Payne's gray. Over in the chat, Lisa says, I got your travel brush. We need more sizes. I love it. Yes, I agree. I want all the sizes. It's just, for me, it's such a big financial investment. So I wish I could just order all the sizes, but I think I unfortunately have to take it like one size per year or so. I have a mechanical pencil. It doesn't really matter, really. This is a Sakura Sumogrip. I like it because it's so chunky, but honestly, just whatever pencil, right? Works, will work. Okay, let's start with the sketch. Let me rearrange things here. Okay. Might wanna go a bit closer so you can see better. So I will press down a lot harder than I would usually do, just so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, we're gonna start by drawing a circle. It will be a guiding line where we're gonna put in both the flower and the back of the bird. So put your hand down, put your wrist down firmly on the paper, hold your pencil loosely, and then draw, let's see, about a third in, draw a line, a curved line. So you're basically using your own hand and wrist as a protractor, going like this. And along this line, we're gonna put our ohia lehua flower. And then also along this line, we're gonna put our bird. So from around here,
within the flower, this is where the tip of the beak of the bird will end. So draw a curved line, that's for the beak. And don't worry about getting everything perfect right away. We can still change things on the go. I just want us to loosely put that bird in to the frame. Draw a circle for the head. Again, don't worry about getting it right. I am myself kind of wobbly this morning, so it's all good. It's all good. I think we're all wobbly right now. These are wobbly times. Okay, a bigger circle, or I should say actually an oval for the body, and try to line it up with the curved line that you drew. The head should be, I'd say, a third of the rest of the body. Maybe a little, the body should be a little shorter. So this is, I think, about right. So 1/3. And then the head would fit 2 more times and then like half. I hope that makes sense. And then around here you can draw in the wings. They overlap at the back, so they cross in the back. And then the tail. Okay, so very rough sketch. We need to put in the leg. That's around here. Then a straight line up to the flower. So this I'iwi bird is holding himself up, basically hanging from that flower. And I won't be drawing in the leaves, so the leaves just come in later, freehand. Okay, so looking at my whole page, I realized that I put the whole bird kind of like in the top part of the page, which is fine for me because, you know, you can always add the description, what you're painting, and add something like week 1, Aloha 26 February, and do some swatches, or maybe even put down some fun facts about this bird. But yeah, just make sure that you place your bird on the page where you want it to be, or you know, you can also maybe add another flower down here or down here to fill the page in a pleasing way. Okay, go ahead and refine our sketch. So here with the flower, I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to do the flower freehand as well. It's just a bunch of quick lines. So for the beak, I'm going to add another line. If you look at the reference photo, it is actually quite amazing how large the beak is in comparison to the rest of the bird. So make sure your beak is not too small. Make it rather a little too big, actually, so that, that we know it's an I'iwi bird. So this one is still too thin, and I'm gonna make it a bit broader. Also here at the top. And then the way this beak goes into the rest of the head, it's a bit straight here at the forehead, and then it curves. So it's like this and this. It's not just entirely round. And then it's rather flat here. So straight line, curved and flat. And then we have the head for the body. Okay, here, and then the belly. Don't make your bird too slim. Again, if you look at the reference photo, it's quite broad here. So that's why I kind of changed my line a bit to make this bird a little bit wider. And then I have to bring my foot out a little more. And reposition the leg a little bit. Okay, how's it going, you guys? I know birds are difficult to draw if you're not used to drawing them, and I think that's true for almost all animals. So I hope that I'm not going too fast and you can follow easily. Okay, we have our beak, head, part of the body, the leg, and now let's put the wings in. You want a little bit of a distance between the wing and the belly. Then this is the part that is very black. So wedge in the wing. And then there's an important part to remember here. And that is that this part is remaining white. So these two little things, we're gonna keep white. So we're gonna keep the white of the paper. There will be another sliver of white here as well. All right, let me look at the chat. Hi, Nina. Well, Nina has drawn birds all January because she was participating in what's called Bird Fest. That's a challenge that happens every January, and there's a bird every day. So I think you got some practice there, Nina. I participated in that challenge last year, but man, yeah, drawing something every day for 30 days. I actually did 2 or 3 challenges 30 days last year, but I think this year I'm just gonna take it a bit more slowly and just focus on my own challenge. And I decided to draw every prompt in different ways rather than trying to participate in all and every challenge this year. Okay, I will zoom out a little bit again. And now comes the kneadable eraser that I talked about. So see, it's kind of like Play-Doh. And of course, again, you don't need this eraser. What I really like about it, though, is that it does not harm your paper. It's very gentle. And as I said, you can shape it and then you can roll it over your drawing. And see how the pencil lines disappear slowly. So you can really roll it to the point where you're happy with how faint your pencil lines are. And of course, I'm going to take out all the lines that I really don't need later on. For example, my first large circle line, and then also a few of the lines within the bird. Remember that as soon as you paint watercolor over your pencil line, you won't be able to erase that pencil line anymore. You can, of course, work with the fact that you'll have pencil lines showing through and just be fine with that. You know, don't worry about it. But if you don't want your pencil lines to show through, or just minimally, make sure you erase your lines until you can barely see them. I'm not gonna go all the way because I want you guys to still be able to see my pencil lines. Over in the chat, Nina says, a daily challenge is just too much. Yeah. Lisa says there's a February, oh my gosh, February bird challenge going on now too. that just broke my tongue. Okay, up next, we're gonna put down the first layer, and the first layer will be yellow. So we're gonna color the whole bird in yellow, except for these 3 parts that will remain white. And I'm also gonna put down a layer of yellow for my ohia lehua flower. So I'm grabbing my palette, and I'm also grabbing my ceramic palette. So let's dip into our yellow. That was a lot of water. Ooh, wow. I don't want my paint to be too thick, so I am watering it down quite a bit because this is just the first layer. We're gonna create a wash on the paper. Putting this to the side. All right, and then a few quick strokes. I'm holding my brush pretty upright and just flicking it, so to speak, onto the paper. Then holding my brush upright all the way like this. Gently putting it down at the tip of the beak. And you know what? I have to stop right here, you guys, because I forgot to put in the eye, and that might be helpful to put that in. Apologies. Okay, so if you have already painted your whole bird, then don't worry about it. It's, as I said, it is a first layer, and the eye will be very dark, so it's gonna be fine. However, if you're keeping pace with me, just stop and then put in the eye of the bird. And I always try to paint around the eye as well. It's not necessary. You can paint over it with a very light wash at first, but I usually, out of habit, just don't paint over the eye. Okay, the eye is located, it's about how should I put it? So if you look at the photo here, you could draw a straight line from the nostrils here to the eye, like this. And if you look at the whole head, it's located kind of close to the beak. So it's not like down here anywhere. It's fairly close to the beak when you look at the whole head. So make sure it's close enough to the beak or bill. I always get confused about beaks and bills. You know that, we've discussed this plenty. Okay, and now we'll go back to our first layer of yellow. And as I mentioned, I will be painting around the eye, creating an even layer, and I'm also skipping those little pieces here in the wings, and also this one next to the wing, in between the wing and the belly. These will stay paper white. Okay. Rinsing my brush. Sylvie says, yeah, same here. Beak, bill, when to use which. We did look it up. If you have followed me for a while, then you know that I paint a lot of birds, and we've had this discussion. And there were things about the size and the length. So one is when it's a thin one and long, I think it's a bill, and when it's shorter or something, it's a beak, maybe. Tracy should know that. Well, I should know it too. I mean, honestly, by this point, I should know. Okay, let's mix a nice orange, dark orange for the next sip. I'm going to use the yellow I already have on my palette, and I'll add some of my red. Nina says in Dutch, I believe it's always just Schnabel. Yeah, same in German, it's always Schnabel. Which you can also use for humans, of course. When you want somebody to shut up, you just tell them in German, halt den Schnabel. Hold your bill, hold your beak. It kind of sounds like in English it has a different connotation when you say it like that. I hope it's nothing that will lead YouTube to shut this video down. I don't know. It sounds like it could have different meanings. And see, this is how it happens. Super easy. You say something in jest and then boom. So Tracy wants to know how to spell Schnabel in German. It's S-C-H-N-A-B-E-L. Waffe? Really? Halt die Waffe? I've never heard that one before. Wer sagt denn bitte halt die Waffe? Das ist ja lustig. Okay, I mixed kind of like almost like a vermilion type of orangey red, so it's very red. Contains a little bit of yellow. I'm gonna check the paper to see if my bird's halfway dry, and if there's no sheen on the paper, you can continue. If your bird looks really wet, I would wait a little bit so that the paint doesn't explode. Okay, now we can add our glaze of orangey red, and again, make sure you don't paint over the eye and the white parts of the bird. In this step, you can shape your bird even more. So what I mean by that is, if you don't like your pencil drawing, for example, the Schnabel is too thin, make it a bit broader, carefully with your watercolor layer. But honestly, if you like the shape of your bird, and even if it doesn't look like the bird in the reference, just go with what you have. You do not have to create the same bird as in the reference photo. This is really not, this is not the goal. Well, first of all, the goal is to just unwind and relax with all of us, of course, here in the group. And get to know a few distinctive characteristics of this bird, you know, the way it looks, the way the colors are distributed. But it's not about getting it 100% perfect at all. It's like seriously not the goal here. Are you still discussing the Halt die Waffe? So translated to English, it would be hold your waffle if you want to tell somebody to be quiet. And you know, I lived almost 30 years in Germany, so it's crazy. I've never heard of that expression. Okay, so we have a first wash of yellow, first layer of yellow, and then the second wash, the second glaze, actually you say that in that case, is our orangey red. And if your flower is dry enough, and while this part of the bird dries, we can start with a few details of the ohia lehua flower. Holding your brush upright, you can also switch to your smaller brush at this point. But I'm just dropping in a few strokes here at the center. They're still pretty thick. I'm rinsing my brush and I'm picking up a little bit of my purplish black. So really this is, excuse me, just a tiny bit. Tiny bit. Mixing in a little bit of my red. So I'm mixing this shadow color to indicate a bit of depth within this flower. Here, and then let's add a little bit here as well. It does not look pretty right now. This is the ugly phase of the whole thing. Don't worry about it. We're gonna add details, more shadows later on. So these are just the base layers. It's one of the most important things to learn with watercolors, that there is an ugly phase, actually not just one, but probably 6, depending on how many layers you make. Okay. One of the reasons I love working with non-cotton watercolor paper during my live streams is that this type of paper dries a lot faster. And as you know, I live in Hawaii, where we have a very humid climate, usually way over 80%, sometimes 90. So if I work with cotton paper, it just takes a lot longer to dry. And I try to avoid using my hair dryer too much during the live streams. So that's why I really love this paper to work with. Okay, looking over to the chat, Patricia says, Smurle? Smurle? I heard also in German. I think that might be Dutch. Nina says smurl in Dutch, but it's not very kind to say. Oh, I love learning stuff like that. Oh my goodness. Maybe I shouldn't repeat it though loudly. As you know, some videos get banned if they use certain words, so let's be careful here. I think you can write whatever in the chat though. I should just probably not repeat it aloud. Okay, let's check the dryness, wetness of the bird again. Yeah, it's still, I can see it's still a little moist, but that's fine because we're just gonna go in with the red now. And if it's a tad moist, then that's okay. So, grabbing pure red at this point. Mixing it on my palette to see how thick the paint consistency is. And that's looking pretty good. All right, so I am going to add red to the main body part of the bird. And as you can see, I'm using only the tip of my brush to indicate the feathery components. So this time, this is the third layer, I'm not just adding a glaze full on. I'm adding small, quick strokes with my red paint all across the body of the bird. I know that I'm working very fast here. You can take your time with this step. So for this particular step, it doesn't matter if you're fast or slow. And then here in this part, make sure you draw in. Let me zoom in. So here, continue your strokes into the wing a little bit. So there's an overlap. Small little feathers overlap the part that will be painted black later on. So my bird looks a little bit spiky here. So I'll carefully take my brush and smooth out a few of these spiky looking parts. We want to create the illusion of small little tiny feathers on this bird, but we also don't want it to look like a kiwi bird, you know, one of those birds that has like spiky feathers. And if it's not too late, try to leave a little bit of a ring around the eye, because the ring of the eye around the ring around the eye of an iiwi is actually yellow. I always forget. So let's try. And maybe lift a little bit of that red with my small brush that I just rinsed and dried on a towel. Gonna carefully try and remove some of that red around the eye. I feel like it's always good when I make a mistake or I forget a step, then I get to show you how to hopefully fix it. Doesn't always work. After every stroke and wipe, I rinse my brush, dry it, and then I pick up some paint. You can even scrub the paint away like this. All right, yeah, that's big enough, I think. So let me show you on the photo real quick so you know what I'm talking about. So look at the bird. See how it has this beautiful yellow ring around the eye. It's very distinctive. It's one of the ways to distinguish this bird from another red bird here in Hawaii, the apapane. So that other bird doesn't have a curved bill either, but the yellow mark, for example, would be another good way to distinguish this other bird from the one we are drawing today, we're painting today. Let's continue with our red feathers. And I've been really lucky. I've actually seen quite a few iiwi birds in real life, however, just from far away. We do have a few nature trails here on the island, and one was distinctly or specially, I'd say, built to host native Hawaiian plants and also to host Hawaiian birds. Just going over a few areas where too much yellow is still peeking through. Okay, and then a few bigger strokes for the belly. And we're gonna go over everything with colored pencil later for the last step also. So there's still time to, in quotation mark, fix things. I'm gonna mix a little bit of a shadow color again. So from the dark color, you might be using indigo, you might be using black, or maybe you have the same color. take some of your red and mix it in so you have a brown color. And I'm gonna add a few shadows here at this left-hand side of the bird. And also along the leg, or again on the left side of the leg. And please feel free to use a smaller brush if you like. I'm painting in the nostril here. Also a little bit of a shadow on this side here. I feel like it's not dark enough. Let's add a little bit more of our dark color. Don't be afraid to add too much of a contrast color. You can lift it again if it's too much. But we want a few distinctive shadows here in our bird. On this side, up here a little bit, and then on this side of the leg, and also within the plant. Okay, and then a few down here, just haphazardly added like this. Okay, I'm rinsing my brush again. Hello, Daggy. Kerstin says her bird looks like he has what's the word? Not shingles, pox? No, measles. like all these dots. So if you have too much of a pattern texture in your bird, you can rinse your brush and dry it, and then just gently go over those parts of the bird that, you know, look a bit too textured. Make it look a bit smoother. Servus, Tanja. Oh, Tanja, ja, wir müssen ja noch unseren Workshop-Termin festmachen, gell? Hab das nicht vergessen. Lisa says, of course my dog needs to go out right now. We'll catch you on the replay. Of course. The dog was just waiting for the live stream. Like, okay, now is the time. Okay, so everyone, let's see if our flower is dry. Yes, that looks good. So we can do the next layer on the flower while we wait for the rest of the bird to dry before we add the wings. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit again so that you can keep an eye on the reference. I'm gonna push this up also a little bit. All right, okay, so I'm gonna switch to my smaller brush, my size 2, and actually for mixing my paint, it's usually better to use a bigger brush. So a bigger brush to grab some of the pigment, distribute it on the palette. If you use a small brush to do that, it's just not as effective because of course, you know, the smaller brush has less hair, so you have to rub the pigment some more to get it out of the pan, and it's gonna stress out your brush. Some people, I believe, have extra like designated brushes to get the paint out of the pan cheaper brushes to get the paint out of the pan so they don't have to use their nice expensive ones. But I guess I'm not so precious with my brushes. Okay, and for this step, it's really advisable to hold your brush upright, because what we want to do is create quick curved strokes. So we'll start in the center of the flower and do some very quick, very loose curved strokes. And I will be showing you the reference photo again in a minute, because I want to point out that for this flower, not all strokes start at the same center. So what I mean by that is, if you look at this flower real up close, you see that it has different parts. It's like bundles of flower stamens. So here and here. So every bundle of this part of the flower sits in its own little pod. So they don't all start at the same center point. So once we're done with one part, I'm going to move over, let's say, to here and choose another starting point, and then go from there and create another bundle of stamens. I'm gonna pick up a little bit more of my red paint, put it on my palette. I think for this part you can actually also just paint directly from your pan, because we want those strokes to be quite visible and not too thin. So let me just try that. I'm gonna just dip right into my pan directly, grab the paint from there. Let's make another bundle here. I start from this point and then go to the side. Some quick strokes. If this part is really difficult for you, especially if you're just starting out, you can also do this whole step with colored pencil. And of course, another method would be to practice this particular stroke first before you go and paint your flower. So just use a scrap piece of paper and practice these quick strokes. Okay, down here, I'm trying to not paint over my bird, but even that will be okay. Also, please remember that you can move your paper, you can turn it if that's easier for you. And make sure that you do paint over the leg, over the foot. We want to hide the foot in there because this bird is really grabbing onto this flower and the branch underneath it, and it makes the foot disappear into the flower. Okay, I will be adding a few strokes that are more straight at this point as well, because not all of the flower is curved. I used to paint ohia lehua always with super curved stamens, but it's actually not all curved. So just put in a few straight ones. I also have to say at this point that I'm not entirely sure if this part of the flower is actually the stamen. It might not be, because it's the flower of the endemic state tree, so it's a tree flower, And this is the thing. This is the flower. So there are no petals per se. So I do wonder if maybe these are called petals rather than stamens. So I apologize that for I'm using the wrong terms here. So maybe one of you knows that. That would be cool. Could solve this little question here right away. I do have a few guidebooks about Hawaiian plants, so I could maybe just quickly look it up too while everything dries. Okay, so let's try this, and I'm gonna grab my book. And oh, hi Suze. Suze from New Zealand says, did you see the pohutukawa flower when you were in New Zealand, Keiko? It's similar to that. Yes, it's basically the same. However, they do say that it is a different variety in the sense that it is distinctive enough that it's considered to be its own species. So pohutukawa in New Zealand, even though it looks exactly the same, is a bit different than the Hawaiian ohia lehua tree. But they're all pom-pom trees. Okay, where is that book? Here it is. Let's say, so here. Okay, here is ohia 54 and 100. Let's see, 54. That's not it, so 100. That's not it either. Strange. Okay, let's see. Maybe if one of you has a little time right now, they can look it up to see what the different parts of the ohia plant are called. Jessie says there's stamen. Oh, right, not stamen. I think I mispronounced it. Stamen, yes. Yeah, I was wondering, are they considered stamen or some kind of petals that it just grew into really spindly, long, skinny ones? Who knows? All right, there are just a few more steps. So up next, we're gonna add the dark colors to the bird and then paint the eye. Then loosely paint the leaves, and then as a last step, we're gonna add colored pencil details and texture. Okay, I'm gonna put my black on here. I still have so much on my palette. I think that's actually quite enough to use for today. Whenever I don't use this color to paint iiwi birds, I usually use dark indigo. I don't normally go for black, straight black. I do like the color variation of either indigo or this custom mixed purplish black. For this step, please make sure that your paper is really dry. You do not want colors to blend here. Carefully setting down the tip of my size 8 brush and dragging it down. And I'm just filling up this wing here, making sure that I paint around those little fluffy feathers that we drew in earlier with red paint. And also remember to not paint over the white parts here. And I almost painted over the little white part here, see? So forgot about that a little bit. If you're not there yet, make sure you leave a little bit of white here and there on these two spots. Very distinctive feature for this bird too, to have these white parts peeking out. And last but not least, the tail is forked at the end, at least in this reference photo. Ooh, I love how that purple is coming through. That's so cool. I'm not sure how well the camera picks this up, but it's not entirely black. It has a purple sheen to it. I'm switching my brush. I am going to my small round brush for the eye. If you don't want to mess up your eye and you're not used to painting tiny details yet, then please feel free to use a fine liner, for example, or a colored pencil to paint the eye. Let me get in closer. Okay, so I start with, hold on, this line here. Then draw a little circle. Leave the inner part white, and then add a finer line here at the bottom. This is my own interpretation of this bird's eye. It's not entirely accurate. I kind of want the bird to look at us. So he's hanging there, but he's also looking at us. Okay, so while this dries completely, I'm gonna head over to my computer and just look up. So let's see, how would I look for that? Oh, here, lehua, flower, how would you say? Parts? Names? Flower parts? Ooh, filament. Ah. Okay, so according to the internet, this whole thing is called a filament. Stalk-like filament. And oh, okay, sorry. So the whole thing is a stamen. The stalks are the filaments, and then at the end there are these little dots, and those are called anther, kind of like anthem, but with an R in the end. Oh. Oh my gosh, this is so confusing, you guys. And then the female reproductive part extends from the center of the stamens, and they're called pistils. I give up, you guys. We're gonna paint today. We're not gonna concern ourselves with the correct botanist terms, and I apologize to people who know this and you know, who know all that. And I should probably too. But again, I'm happy we get together to paint. And if I piqued your interest with getting to know more about this flower, by all means, go ahead. And I certainly will, after this session, look into this a bit more deeply. Okay, let's put the black color back. I'm gonna grab green. It's gold green, but honestly, for today's session, just use any green you have at hand. Chromium oxide green would work really nicely with this too. I will be mixing green and yellow. I want my green to be a bit lighter than what comes straight out of the pan here. So adding a little bit of yellow. Could mix in some of this brown here too from my palette to give it a bit more of a muddy look, mossy look. Consistency is quite watery, which is good because we're just going to go around and loosely, with just a few quick strokes, add some leaves. So really don't overthink it. Just use your round brush to create some leaf-like shapes, some teardrop shapes. You can fill out some spaces here with just a few strokes. If your brush dries out, don't worry about it. That's also a nice look. All right, and here we go. Ciao, Sylvie. Good night. Thanks for joining. Yeah, I know it's really late in Germany already. It's like after 9 p.m. at night already. Okay, so we have, I'd say, most parts of the birds in watercolor. And now for the last step, we're gonna switch to our colored pencils. I'm gonna put my palette to the side. So if you tuned in a bit later today, I have everything listed down in the description box below, everything that I'm using today. You can, of course, finish the whole bird and flower and everything with just watercolor. It's not strictly necessary at all to use colored pencil. It's just something that I really enjoy doing. I love the combination of watercolor and colored pencil to add some texture, also maybe to add a few more lines, a bit more detail. So with my poppy red color, I'm lightly going over the body of the bird. So this is a very, very bright red. It will add a bit more pizzazz to the bird and also give it a little bit more of a feathery texture. If you're working with paper that is rough, your colored pencil strokes will show up a lot more even than on this paper, which is pretty smooth. You can lay it on a bit thicker here in the shadow area, a bit lighter on the rest. I'm switching from my bird over to the flower. And again, just adding a few strokes here and there, especially where I feel like the yellow is shining through a bit too much. Giving it a bit more vibrancy. Okay, I'm switching to the yellow, adding the yellow ring around the eye. Adding a bit of yellow to the beak, to the foot. Can't believe I have to look it up again. What was the name of these little things at the end? I just looked it up. Anther. Okay, so the anthers at the tip, I'm drawing in with yellow. If you have gold watercolor, I think this would also look really beautiful if you put the anthers in with gold or another metallic watercolor paint rather than doing it with colored pencil. Also, please be careful to not push your hand through any parts of your painting that are still wet. I know it's almost superfluous to say that, but it still happens to me sometimes, so I just want to point it out to you. Over in the chat, Sylvie says she's not sleeping that well. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Sylvie. Yeah, I think, well, neither do I. I'm not sure if it's the same reasons, but these are strenuous times for sure. I hope you sleep better tonight, and I hope you have no dreams or really, really nice dreams. Soothing ones. Good vibes. Okay, this is it for the yellow, and I've got 2 colors left. I have my dark green, and I'm just going over a few of the leaves. You can also add a few random ones in between. And if you don't like the look of this, I know this is very it's kind of like a distinctive look to do outlines like that with a colored pencil. You can totally skip this step. You could instead, for example, also add in a few more darker leaves just with watercolor, for example, like this. Or you could use watercolor to create some quick outlines as well. So it's really up to you. But I personally really love this quick colored pencil outline look. I also press down harder and lighter for every leaf, so I vary the pressure so that my line is not smooth. It's thicker, it's stronger, it's skinnier in places. So I really try to vary the pressure to create different qualities of lines. Last but not least, I have my Payne's Gray colored pencil, and this is basically just to make a few of the shadows stronger if I needed to. But I think it's actually looking all right. Maybe the nostril here, a few shadows on this side, lightly, gently drawing over what's already there. let's compare. I always love to compare my two paintings at the end of the session. So, and it's always a good idea to also like stand up and change the angle that you're looking at your painting, because naturally when I paint live, I'm looking at my painting from an angle, so picking it up looks totally different. That's interesting. So I feel like in today's bird, the whole weight of the bird is more towards the bottom. So it's kind of like bottom heavy today. It's like shaped like a pear. Whereas I feel like in here, I got the shape. It looks more harmonious, I'd say. However, I love the look of the flower today. Like this version of the flower, I like much better than this one. I like the leaves too. So yeah, I think for this bird, the head needs to be a bit bigger, like wider, like here. That got a bit too small, and that's probably why the rest of the bird and the body looks a bit too big in comparison. But yeah, I do love the texture here too. Yeah, I'm quite happy with how this turned out today. As I said, the flower, I really prefer over the original flower. And let's add some text. And as I said, you could, you know, if you want to fill in some space here, just add a few more of these flowers here and there. I'm not going to finish the flowers. This is just to give you an idea what you could do to finish your page or to fill it up a little more. And add some lettering. If you have a date stamp, it's always handy to add the date. And then especially should you ever paint this bird again, you could go back to this one and, you know, compare, see the progress, see the changes. Right, and this is week 1 of Aloha 26. 26. Man, can you believe it? February. And you can, of course, add swatches, maybe even the kind of materials you used. Okay, over in the chat. Thank you, Mom. Sue says my tail went too vertical when I added the watercolor, so the whole bird is more straight up and down looking, more like this. That's fine. I've seen these birds hang in like the weirdest positions from trees and everything. I mean, they literally can also hang upside down. They're very versatile in their hanging positions. Nina says, I love date stamps. Yes, me too. Stamps of any kind. I like just love stamps in general. All right, my dears, I hope you enjoyed today's session. The next live stream won't be next week as per usual. I will be teaching in person next weekend and the weekend after. So I'm going to be very busy in the next 2 weeks, which means that the next live stream will be at the end of the month for the 4th prompt, which is the Ilipayo bird, this little guy here. We're going to paint something similar to this one. And I will keep you updated, of course, about the date. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, I would highly suggest that you do so if you want to be part of my live streams. The link is down below in the description box. And as always, if you enjoyed the stream, please give me a thumbs up on this video or even leave a comment down below. I would highly appreciate that. All right. I wish you guys a lovely start of the week. Thank you for joining today. Happy creating, and aloha, and bye bye. See you next time.